David Carter sat by the window of his modest yet meticulously designed apartment, staring blankly at the rain that poured steadily onto the city streets below. It had been 20 years since Clara, his beloved wife, had passed away. Though the world had moved on, David remained frozen in time, caught in the shadow of her loss. As an architect, David had spent decades creating buildings that touched the sky, marvels of design that earned him wealth and recognition. Yet, the very structures that once symbolized his success now felt hollow, mirroring the emptiness that consumed him. The money, the accolades, the career. None of it mattered anymore. All he had left was a quiet, lonely existence, punctuated by the unshakable routine of his daily life. Each morning, David would visit Clara's grave, speaking to her headstone as if she could hear him. It was his way of clinging to her memory, the only anchor he had in an otherwise aimless existence. As he watched the rain slide down the glass, he sighed, reflecting on the monotony of his life. But what David didn't know was that everything was about to change. An encounter with a stranger, fleeting and unexpected, would set off a chain of events that would forever alter the course of his life. For the first time in 2 decades, David's carefully constructed routine was about to be disrupted, forcing him to confront not only the depth of his grief, but also the secrets Clara had carried to her grave. It was another rainy evening in the city as David Carter sat alone at a quiet corner table in an upscale restaurant. The place was alive with chatter, clinking glasses and the soft hum of music, but for David it was nothing more than background noise. The luxurious surroundings felt empty, as did the untouched glass of wine in front of him. Finishing his meal, he paid the bill without much thought and stepped outside. The rain fell in steady sheets, soaking the streets and creating shimmering reflections of neon signs on the pavement. David pulled his coat tighter around him, bracing against the cold, as he began his walk home. As he turned onto a quieter street, something caught his eye. A young woman huddled under the awning of a closed shop, clutching a small child in her arms. The woman's hair was damp, her thin jacket offering little protection from the cold. The baby whimpered softly, its cries muffled by the rain. David stopped, unsure of what to do. Over the years, he had made charitable donations to countless organizations, but he had always kept a certain distance from those in need. This, however, was different. The scene stirred something deep within him, something he hadn't felt in years. Slowly, David approached the woman. She looked up at him with wide, cautious eyes, her grip tightening around the child. "Here," David said, pulling out the $1,000 he had withdrawn earlier that day. He extended the cash toward her. "Use this to get some food and a warm place to stay." The woman hesitated, her expression shifting from shock to relief. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Thank you so much." David nodded, unsure of what else to say. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and he felt a flicker of connection, a shared humanity that transcended their vastly different lives. He turned and walked away, the sound of the rain masking the sound of his footsteps. But as he continued down the street, the image of the woman and her child haunted him. It wasn't just pity, it was something deeper, a memory of Clara's tenderness, her quiet strength, and the life they never built together. David had no way of knowing it then, but this simple act of kindness would ripple through his life in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. That evening, David sat alone in his living room, the sound of rain tapping against the window echoing his turbulent thoughts. Clara had kept a child from him, a secret so profound it felt like the foundation of his life had been shaken. As he tried to piece together the puzzle, a new question haunted him. How could Clara have hidden this for so long? The following day, Anna reached out to David, asking to meet again. This time, she seemed prepared to share more of her story. They met at a small cafe. Liam nestled quietly in Anna's arms. David's voice was heavy as he confronted her with the question that had been gnawing at him. "Why would Clara keep this from me? Why wouldn't she tell me about you?" Anna nodded as though she had anticipated his question. "I didn't understand it at first either," she admitted. "But I found something, a letter Clara wrote, and I think it might explain. But before I show you, I think you should know about me first." She hesitated, then began her story. "After Clara died, I was placed with a family who adopted me. They weren't bad people, but we weren't close. They did the best they could, but as I got older, they made it clear that I was expected to take care of myself. By the time I had Liam, they had already cut ties. I've been on my own since then." David listened in stunned silence. Anna's words painted a picture of resilience in the face of abandonment. She had struggled not only to learn about her roots, but also to provide for Liam without any safety net. "I tried," Anna continued. "I worked, I saved, but when Liam was born, everything got harder. Childcare was expensive, and I couldn't keep my job. That's why you saw me that night. I've been doing my best, but it's been hard." David's chest tightened with guilt and sorrow. Here was his daughter, who had spent her entire life alone, not knowing where she came from, and now was fighting to survive with her child. He realized that Clara's secret had robbed him of the chance to be there for Anna when she needed it most. Anna pulled a worn envelope from her bag and handed it to David. "This is from Clara," she said softly. "I think it might help you understand why she made the choices she did." David unfolded the letter, his hands trembling slightly as Clara's familiar handwriting came into view. "David, if you're reading this, I hope you can forgive me. I'm pregnant, and I'm terrified. I know you've always been focused on your career, and once you mentioned that you didn't think children were part of our future, I believed you, and I didn't think I could give you what you wanted without losing you. So I turned to someone I trusted for help. My cousin Margaret offered to take care of everything. She promised to keep things quiet, to help me through the pregnancy, and even find a family who could give our child the life I thought we couldn't. I thought I was protecting both of us from something that could tear us apart, but now I'm not sure I made the right choice. I'm so sorry." David's hands trembled as he finished the letter. Margaret, Clara's cousin, had orchestrated everything. She had helped Clara through her pregnancy, arranged for Anna's adoption, and ensured the secret was buried. "She thought she was protecting you," Anna said gently. "But in doing so, she left both of us searching, me for the truth, and you for the family you never knew you had." David's gaze fell to Liam, who wriggled slightly in Anna's arms. For the first time, David saw not just the pain of the past, but also a glimmer of possibility. David took a deep breath, the weight of years of solitude beginning to lift. The realization hit him that while he couldn't change the past, he had the power to shape the future. "You're right," he said, his voice steadying with newfound determination. "We're here now, and I don't want to waste any more time." In the days that followed, David found himself thinking constantly about Anna and Liam. The revelation about Clara's secret and Anna's struggles weighed heavily on him, but they also awakened something else, an undeniable sense of responsibility. He realized he couldn't change the choices Clara had made or the hardships Anna had endured, but he could still shape what came next. One afternoon, David reached out to Anna, asking if they could meet again. She agreed, and they arranged to meet at a local park. The sun shone through the trees as David arrived, spotting Anna sitting on a bench with Liam in her lap. The baby giggled as he tried to grab at the ducks waddling near the pond. David approached cautiously, unsure of how to begin. "Thank you for meeting me," he said as he sat down beside her. Anna smiled faintly. "Of course. I wasn't sure if you'd want to see us again, after everything." David shook his head, his expression earnest. "I want to be part of your life, yours and Liam's. I know I've missed so much, but I don't want to miss any more." Anna studied him for a moment, her eyes searching his face. "It won't be easy," she said softly. "We're practically strangers, and there's a lot we don't know about each other." "I understand," David replied, his voice steady. "But I'm willing to try, if you'll let me." Anna glanced down at Liam, who was now staring up at David with wide, curious eyes. "Liam doesn't have a grandfather," she said quietly. "If you want to fill that role, I think it could mean a lot to him, and to me." David felt his chest tighten with emotion. He reached out tentatively, his hand brushing against Liam's tiny fingers. The baby grabbed onto his hand, giggling, and David couldn't help but smile. "I'd like that," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "more than anything." From that day forward, David began to carve out space in his life for Anna and Liam. Their bond was tentative at first, cautious, as they navigated the complexities of their new relationship. David accompanied Anna and Liam to doctor's appointments, took them out for small outings, and even began helping Anna with her job search. Through these moments, David saw the strength and resilience in Anna, traits he couldn't help but admire, and in Liam he found a sense of joy and purpose that he hadn't felt in decades. One evening, as they sat together at Anna's modest apartment, Liam nestled against David's chest. Anna looked over at him and smiled. "I think Clara would be happy to see this," she said softly. David nodded, his heart swelling with both sadness and hope. "I think so too." In building this new bond, David realized that while the past had left scars, it had also paved the way for a future worth fighting for. The next morning, David visited Clara's grave again, as he had done so many times before. But this time, it felt different. He no longer carried the same heaviness in his heart. Standing before her headstone, he placed a small bouquet of flowers and spoke softly, his voice steady. "Clara, I wish you had trusted me enough to share everything. I don't know if I'll ever fully understand why you made the choices you did, but I know you did them out of love. And now, I've found Anna. I've found Liam. They're incredible, and I think you'd be proud." He paused, letting the breeze carry his words. "I've spent so many years grieving, holding on to the past, but I think it's time I let go. Not of you, but of the pain. I need to move forward. Thank you for giving me that chance, even if it came in a way I didn't expect." As he turned to leave, the sunlight broke through the clouds, bathing the cemetery in a warm, golden glow. David felt a quiet peace settle over him, as if Clara was somehow giving him her blessing. Later that afternoon, David joined Anna and Liam at the park. They sat together on the grass, watching Liam crawl clumsily toward a ball. Anna laughed, the sound light and joyful, and David found himself smiling too. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel so bleak. He no longer felt defined by what he had lost, but by what he had gained: a daughter, a grandson, and a second chance at love and connection. As the sun began to set, David looked at Anna and Liam, a sense of belonging washing over him. He finally felt at peace, ready to embrace whatever came next. A few months had passed since David and Anna first met, and their relationship had grown stronger with each passing day. They had fallen into a new rhythm, visiting the park together, sharing meals, and celebrating Liam's small milestones. For the first time in years, David felt a sense of belonging he hadn't known was possible. One evening, as the city lights twinkled through Anna's small apartment window, the three of them sat together in the living room. Liam, now more active and curious, crawled around with a stuffed toy in hand, while Anna and David sipped tea at the dining table. "David," Anna began hesitantly, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of her mug. He looked up, his expression immediately attentive. "Yes?" She paused for a moment, as though gathering her thoughts. "I've been thinking about something. About us." David set his mug down, his heart beating slightly faster. "Go on," he encouraged gently. Anna took a deep breath, her eyes meeting his. "You've been here for me and Liam in a way I never expected. I grew up feeling like I didn't have anyone, no real family. But now," her voice trembled slightly, "now, I feel like I do." David's chest tightened as he listened, emotions swirling inside him. "You've done so much for us," Anna continued, her voice trembling slightly, a mix of hope and hesitation. "I never thought I'd have the chance to say this, but would it be okay if I called you Dad?" The room fell quiet, except for Liam's babbling in the background. David's breath caught in his throat, and he felt an unexpected warmth spreading through his chest. "Anna," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Hearing the word Dad after so many years felt like a balm to an ache he didn't even realize he still carried. It wasn't just a name. It was a bridge connecting him to a future he thought he'd lost forever. "You have no idea how much that would mean to me." Tears welled up in Anna's eyes, and she let out a soft laugh, wiping at them quickly. It's just, I've never had anyone I could say that to. And Liam deserves a grandfather who loves him. I think we both need you. David reached across the table, placing his hand over hers. And I need you both too. You've given me a purpose I didn't think I'd ever find again. Anna smiled, tears now flowing freely. Thank you, Dad. The word hung in the air, carrying with it a sense of healing and new beginnings. David felt his heart swell as he realized the depth of the connection they had built. Later, after Liam had fallen asleep in his crib, Anna and David sat on the balcony, sipping tea as the city lights twinkled in the distance. I've been thinking, David said, breaking the comfortable silence. There's so much I missed. Your childhood, your struggles. I can't change that, but I want to do better now. I want to be there for you and Liam in every way I can. Anna placed a hand on his. You already are, Dad, and I think Mom would be happy to see us here, together. As the night deepened, David gazed out at the skyline, a sense of fulfillment he hadn't felt in decades filling his chest. He had found not just a daughter and grandson, but also a new purpose. The shadows of the past were no longer chains. They were the roots of a future he was ready to nurture. The next morning, they walked together to the park, Liam toddling between them, his tiny hands gripping David's and Anna's fingers. The trio moved in unison, shadows intertwined on the sunlit path, a picture of a family brought together not by time, but by choice and love. The boys' laughter echoed under the golden sunlight, a sound so pure it felt like a promise of love, resilience, and hope. For the first time, David felt that Clara's absence no longer defined his life. Instead, her memory had become the foundation for something new, something beautiful. As they sat on the park bench, watching Liam chase after the ducks, David turned to Anna. This isn't just a second chance. It's a gift. A life I never knew I needed, but now can't imagine living without. Anna smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. And it's a beginning we're building together.